What's up, Ragin Nation? How's it going? This is Alex, and you're watching TF4 Talk. This is just a web series where we're talking about Transformers Age of Extinction. This is episode number 23, and in this episode, we're going to talk about the inspirations for Transformers Age of Extinction. Now, what do I mean by inspirations? Well, if you look back at the first three films, Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, and Dark of the Moon, a lot of the story elements for those three films came from somewhere, alright? They came from some original ideas. Alright, and these ideas came from G1, or Animated, or Prime, or Beast Hunters, or Robots in Disguise. At the end of the day, the writers, Roberto Orci, Alex Kurtzman, Aaron Kruger, they took story ideas from the original cartoons, which is the original source material, alright? So now what I want to talk about is where some of the story elements got their inspiration from. Alright, let's just be very specific about these things. And let's just do a bit of a discussion. So, we're going to start off with the creators. Who are the creators? The creators have never really been seen in the live-action universe until now in Transformers Age of Extinction. All we really see is the hand. They're pushing a button, which leads to the extinction of the dinosaurs from the cyber forming, and we also get to see their spacecraft. And then at the end of the movie, Optimus Prime suggests that he will be meeting his creators very soon. Now, who are the creators? Well, the idea of the creators obviously came from the 1986 Transformers film, and that would be the Quintessons. So, the creators aren't called the Quintessons in the live-action films, at least not yet. They're called, or rather, known as the creators, and of course this is inspired from the Quintessons. Okay? Now, the next story element that was inspired from a previous iteration of Transformers is Ratchet and Lockdown. The scene where you see Ratchet and Lockdown was where somewhere in the, I think the 20-minute mark in the film, or 16-minute mark, and then you see KSI, or rather you see Cemetary Wind and Lockdown hunting down Ratchet. Now, why Ratchet? Okay, why not some other Autobot? Well, in Transformers Animated, Ratchet and Lockdown had a bit of a feud. Okay, so that's where that came from. They could have been, it could have been like Sideswipe, it could have been, who else survived? It could have been a Wrecker, alright? You know, it could have been Dino, but they chose Ratchet for a reason, and that is because if you're going to have Lockdown, they might as well include an Autobot that has a bit of a feud with Lockdown, and that would be Ratchet, which is inspired by Transformers Animated, okay? Now, where did the inspiration came for KSI and Cemetary Wind? KSI is an organization that, I guess, reverse engineers Transformers. They take Transformers parts and they make their own. And Cemetary Wind is an organization, a rather secret organization, that hunts down Transformers. Now, where did the inspiration for that come from? Well, that would be Mech from Transformers Prime. KSI and Cemetary Wind is a combination that makes up Mech. Okay? That's where the inspiration came from. That would be Transformers Prime. What about Evasion Mode Optimus Prime? Alright, why are there two different versions of Prime? Well, Evasion Mode Optimus Prime is a flat-nosed truck, and obviously that came from G1. Alright, we know Optimus Prime in G1 most famously as a flat-nosed truck. Okay, now here's a character that definitely had a lot of inspiration. That was Hound. Why does Hound not look like a Jeep? All right, why is he not a Jeep with an open roof? Okay, why is he not a military Jeep? Well, the filmmakers thought it would be a great idea to have Hound be a heavily armored tactical vehicle, and that would be this Oshkosh tactical defense vehicle. And when you look at the vehicle, he looks a lot like Bulkhead's vehicle mode. And if you look at the robot mode and you see how he's like big and bulky, he looks like Bulkhead. So Hound looking like Bulkhead is obviously inspired from the fact that the Bulkhead character exists, and that is in Transformers Animated and Transformers Prime. Okay, so Hound, looking the way he looks, is inspired from Transformers Prime and animated, but I think namely Transformers Prime. Okay. Now, what about stealth mode Bumblebee? Why do we have a stealth mode Bumblebee? Why does it even need to exist? I mean, after all, there really isn't a reason for Bumblebee to have two different modes, considering that he doesn't really, there isn't a scene where he's actually hiding from humans, okay? So why does it even exist? Well, I'll tell you why it exists. It exists, obviously, to sell more merchandise, but, you know, they had to give him a reason to look that way, and, well, it's the same reason that happened from Transformers Prime Season 3 Beast Hunters, and that is to have an alternate mode, or rather a stealth mode. Okay, when we first see him in Transformers Age of Extinction, he's in this stealth mode, and that would be or rather they call him the high octane mode as the toy. Okay, and that is he is black. All right, he's colored black, and that is so that he does not appear recognizable. That was inspired from Transformers Prime Season 3 Beast Hunters. Okay, now another story element which came from some inspiration. Or some inspirational source was the Bumblebee and Stinger feud. Not much of a feud, but at least a bit of a small little conflict that they have with each other. Bumblebee and Stinger. Okay, Bumblebee, obviously a bumblebee, like a bee, like a honeybee. Stinger, you know, that's like a wasp, you know, with the stinger. You know what I'm saying? They named him Stinger for a reason. He also looks like Bumblebee for a reason, and that is because it was inspired from Transformers Animated because of the characters Bumblebee and Wasp. Okay? Bumblebee and Wasp, I don't know exactly what the relationship is, but Bumblebee and Wasp, they look alike. Okay? If you watch Transformers Animated, you'll know what I'm talking about, and because of that, that is why Bumblebee has a nemesis, and that is Stinger. Okay, so that's where that inspiration came from. Now moving on, let's talk about Galvatron being created by KSI. Now, we already know where Galvatron was created by. Okay, so the obvious inspiration for that was the 1986 movie where Galvatron creates, or rather, where Unicron creates Galvatron using Megatron parts. In this case, KSI is I guess the representation of Unicron. KSI is the big bad evil company, and they created Galvatron using Megatron. All right, so you know it's kind of similar. All right, you know a Unicron in the 1986 movie is the death of other planets, while humans are the death of their own creation, or rather Earth, because or their own home, their own planet, because you know of technology. They created their own demise, and creating Galvatron and all the prototypes is no different. Okay, now check this out. Galvatron leading a whole, Galvatron with his vehicle mode, that would be the Freightliner Argosy, leading a whole army of prototypes. Okay, that was obviously inspired by G1 with Motormaster and the Stunticons. Motormaster is of course the flat nose truck alt mode that leads all these vehicles. Okay. And Michael Bay wanted that in Transformers Age of Extinction, so what he decided to do is to make Galvatron a flat-nosed black and gray truck, resembling Motormaster, and what Galvatron leads is an army of Vehicons, or rather prototypes, which is very, very much similar and inspired from the Stunticons. So the obvious inspiration is G1, okay? Now, Lockdown Ship. What was the inspiration for Lockdown Ship? And why was there even the idea of having Lockdown Ship, or even a sequence in Lockdown Ship? Well, that was actually inspired from the 1986 Transformers film. All right, and this is the sequence where you see Daniel and Carly and Spike in their suits. You know, their robotic suits, and they I think Daniel had to rescue Spike inside Unicron. They're inside Unicron's body, and you know, Spike was about to get dropped into that molten lava or whatever, and then they rescued him. And this is exactly where the inspiration came from for the scene where Kate and Shane have to rescue Tessa. Okay, so the whole lockdown ship sequence was inspired by the 1986 Transformers film, where the other humans have to rescue where Daniel has to rescue his dad, Spike. Okay, so same sort of thing. Essentially, Knightship is Unicron. Okay, as for Lockdown Ship and the big ship suckage scene, well, like I said before, Lockdown Ship is Unicron. In the 1986 movie, Unicron was able to suck the life out of planets, and then he eats planets, and he turns on his primary weapon, and all these things get sucked into Unicron. Well, Lockdown Ship is no different, and that's where the inspiration came from. So, Lockdown Ship is essentially a representation of Unicron for the live-action films in the Michael Bay Transformers universe. So, there you have it. That's all I gotta say in this video. I thought it would be very interesting to explain to you guys where all these story elements came from. That way, when we're speculating on what's happening for Transformers 5, we can talk about brand new ideas. Alright? We can extract new ideas from all the different story elements that existed in G1, in Robots in Disguise, in Prime, in Animated, in Beast Wars, all that stuff. There's a lot of different ideas out there. So I want to ask you guys, what do you guys want to see in Transformers 5, which can be inspired from the previous iterations of Transformers in their cartoons? Alright? What do you want to see? There's some things that I really, really want to see. Such as how Cliffjumper is such a hothead. If they're gonna have Cliffjumper in the Transformers 5, make him as a hot-headed Autobot. That would be very, very cool. And another thing that I'd love to see is just bring in story elements such as I don't know, have combiner battles, combiner versus combiner battles. Okay. Speaking of combiner battles, the reason why they decided not to make the Stunticons is because, well, we've already seen combiners. We've already seen combiners in Revenge of the Fallen. That didn't quite work so well. So that's why, even though they decided to bring a version of Motormaster and a version of the Stunticons, they didn't want to make them combined because we've seen that before. Alright? Instead, they just made them plain old Decepticons, or rather prototypes, and Galvatron as the leader with a alt node that resembles Motormaster's alt node. So anyways, that's all I gotta say. That's all I gotta say in this video, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about Transformers Age of Extinction, and then before the end of the year, we'll wrap it up, and then that will be the final episode of TF4 Talk, and then we're gonna talk a lot about Transformers 5 in the upcoming episodes of The Road to TF5, and then we're also going to be doing toy reviews. We're going to officially be doing toy reviews next year, starting in January 2015, and this is one of the items that I'd like to talk about. Alright, so this is a little bit of a sneak peek, and that's all I gotta say in this video. Alright? So, as always, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation. Also follow me on Twitter, @RaginNation. My name is Alex. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace. So, you know what this tells us? This tells us something. Okay, it's not just about Mark Wahlberg being in the next Transformers film. Alright? It tells us something.